Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Parkside Cabin Rentals. You know that the Ogle family has more great cabins in more great Smoky Mountain locations than anyone else. They know the hospitality business folks have for nearly a century. But they've added some new cabins just off the Gatlinburg Strip. Yes, you can still get up in the mountains and away from everybody. But now if you're wanting to stay a little closer to where the action is, they got cabins there near the Strip. Just visit their website and check out, they've got names for all these cabins. You can go look them up. Look up Hickory Hideaway, look up the Pine Tree Lodge, or look up the Chestnut Lodge. Those are just three of the new ones they've added. ParksideCabinRentals.com. It's where you should be doing your summer or, at this point, fall planning for UT football weekends. Parkside Cabin Rentals. All right, take a look at this graphic. What you got here, and again, salute to our friend of the program. I couldn't fit gold mine up there, so it just says who got a gift, who got the shaft. You see on the left the 8 SEC teams. You see on the right 8 more SEC teams. You got their home schedule. You got the road schedule, who they're playing there. The dates, by the way, have not been announced yet. I'm sure you know that. Also, every team in the conference, they divided the teams up based on the last 10 years' worth of conference winning percentages. And they took the top 8 and the bottom 8. Tennessee factored into the bottom 8. If I were doing this, I would be looking at all-time winning percentage. I think that makes more sense because the cream usually rises. But anyway, that's part of the way. Is Tennessee is considered a bottom of the half SEC team now, based on the last 10 years of records. All right, gentlemen, I'll ask you: does anybody stand out to you as getting an easy schedule? I guess easiest in the SEC, easier.
I would say Texas A&M and Arkansas because they simply don't play Alabama or Georgia.
Okay.
Right, so you missed the top 2 teams in the league traditionally and in the last few years. So by just looking at that and saying, hey, you didn't get those 2 teams, I think that helps them there because, you're looking at LSU's probably their toughest matchup that they have, potentially Texas for Texas A&M. And then for Arkansas, it's LSU and Tennessee are your toughest matchups. So I think right now that's kind of those 2 teams have it the best, and I think I'd give Texas A&M the easiest of those 2.
I think Texas is actually the school that really got helped here. Part of it is because, yes, you can have top 8 and bottom 8, but that's not really the way the tiers work in SEC football in this day and age, right? Also, where are you playing them? And if you look at it and understand why the SEC set it up this way, you want the old Southwest Conference games, and you want it to be at the old school SEC stadium.
You're rewarding your local. Texas won't like that part of it, that it's at A&M and at Arkansas.
But you're at A&M, you're at Arkansas. We'll see how good they're going to be. And then Oklahoma, that's a neutral site game, so you lose a road game in that respect as well that you would have had to give up to another SEC team.
Yeah, 2 neutral site games you'll have every year is that Oklahoma-Texas thing in Dallas, and then, of course, Florida, Georgia, and Jacksonville. So one of those teams each year will be dealing with 3 home games, depending on who gets in the SEC. Marlon, anybody stand out to you as getting it particularly bad or easy? Which way you want to
go? I'm gonna go with Oklahoma. I think they got a tough schedule. You've got Texas, and then you got Alabama. You got Tennessee. Your 2 easiest ones
put the
is
graphic back up there.
South Carolina and Missouri. Which in South Carolina they just beat Clemson, so that's a possible loss there. But you've got Auburn, they're going to score a ton of points with Hugh Freeze and his system. And then LSU's coming off a top 10 debut last year. So I think Oklahoma has the worst schedule if I'm looking at it.
Okay.
Alabama's another one that I think this is tough, especially it's where you're playing them. And I know nobody's going to cry a tear for Nick Saban, but you're playing on the road. You're having to play LSU, Oklahoma, Tennessee on the road. You're also playing at Camp Randall in Wisconsin and out of conference.
Yeah.
That is rough.
And
that is rough for Saban.
And then you got Georgia at home, Auburn at home, but throw in the road game. It's funny how many people came out immediately and said, do you think the SEC stuck it to Saban for complaining about who his 3 permanents would be? Do you think they stuck it to him for flipping on the 9-game thing? My guess is they didn't. There's such a formula to this. You have to play 4 at the top, 4 at the bottom. You've got 2 built-in rivals that you had to keep. So I don't know how well they could doctor it, but I agree with you. The fact that you're having to ask if the SEC stuck it to them,
yes,
they got stuck. I mean, that's not a great schedule.
And the other side of it could be a made-for-television schedule because you're trying to get more money out of ESPN, right? So you're trying to get ESPN to come off of the money for a 9th game. So what do? You give them Alabama under the lights in Baton Rouge. You give them Alabama at Neyland Stadium, which just probably had the best moment in college football all year last year when they played here. And then Oklahoma, who has a great atmosphere as well. I think it could be that more than it is. They're trying to stick it to Saban, but he was the guy that led the charge to let's go to 9 games. Then he found out who his permanent opponents were going to be, and then he led the charge to let's stay at 8 games, right?
Yeah, he got 10 years of praise from me, but I'm going to – the fact that he crab walked, that's going to be – those 10 years of praise for one to go bigger, I'm not going to lump it into 1 year of derision, all of it. I mean, it's terrible that the guy who's been leading the charge for that saw the teams he was going to get and then cried. Let me show you some that I thought stood out, and these include their non-conference schedules as well. Let's look at Florida, all right? Now, you see, look at this schedule now. They got 11 big boy games. I talk about Tennessee not scheduling great in terms of non-conference. If Tennessee had Florida State as a yearly rival, that would be it. They're not going to go schedule somebody else. Florida added Miami and UCF, who's now in the Big 12. These are not just 2 good programs. They're 2 good programs in state. Tennessee won't play Memphis. Look, Billy Napier probably hates this because he's doomed. But I applaud it. You got LSU, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Kentucky's been better, Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, Mississippi State, okay. Miami, Samford, UCF, and Florida. That is just unreal. I can't remember an SEC schedule like that.
Billy Sanford, he just needs to save his money.
Yeah.
Because he ain't making it past
They better have some great depth. Man, you're going to be banged up in that schedule. That's crazy.
Now let's take a look at Georgia. They open with Clemson in Atlanta. So after Clemson, and they've got Georgia Tech, of course, to rival, but that's not. Still, they got 2 Power 5 teams there. Florida, Auburn, Tennessee, Mississippi State, Alabama, Texas. I mean, they got Georgia, Alabama, Clemson. You basically got a playoff there already just on Georgia's schedule. Up next, Alabama, who we talked about. Here's what they've got, just a little closer look at it, including that game at Wisconsin. Credit them for going to a big traditional power, Wisconsin. In addition to Oklahoma, LSU, Tennessee on the road. That's tough. Let me give you 2 more that I thought get screwed, not just because it was tough, but South Carolina first. And here's why I got South Carolina there. All right? They have 1 real rival in the conference, Georgia. Georgia's not on there anymore. It's the 1 team in the SEC they've played 75 or more times. Not on there anymore. The 2 teams that are close to being a rival for them, Florida and Tennessee, which we talked about a couple weeks ago, they're not on there. If you're South Carolina, you're basically getting mostly an SEC West schedule. I just don't know that that's a great deal for them. I would have tried to keep their 1 rival with Georgia somewhere on that schedule. And then Mississippi State, I think I had last. And here, it's the same kind of thing. Nobody cares. You know, the problem in the SEC is Alabama fans only care about their schedule and their rivals, and Tennessee fans only care about their schedule and their rivals. Mississippi State has 4 rivals that they've played 90-something plus times. Ole Miss is obviously one of them, but Alabama, Auburn, and LSU not on the schedule. So you lose 3 of your top 4 most played rivalries. That stinks. I mean, I understand you got to give something to gain something back, but you could have left them have 2 of their traditional rivals. I mean, the Tuscaloosa-Starkville pairing, that's the closest 2 schools in the conference, I believe. So surprised, and that would also Alabama might be happy if you gave us Mississippi State instead of LSU. They've played more often, and they're closer.
Does it seem like the SEC tried to keep the rivalries they set up when we had conference expansion the last time, as opposed to the actual rivals that each of these schools have?
Possible. I mean, the Missouri-Arkansas thing is staying, and that's a doctored deal. All right, very good. When we come back, is anybody going to miss divisional play? Also, have we seen the schedule now and everybody's going to back away and say, ooh, 8's too tough. We don't need 9 conference games. Who's changed their mind on that? And we'll show you. Just talking about who these teams have played the most. Let's show you who Tennessee has played the most often. We'll bring that up next. Come on back on the Sports Source.